Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to puff him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
There you go, Amit. We won't hear this famous slogan tonight. What is this, Sherrod? They keep rolling. The Celtics keep rolling. Yeah. Music's playing. Another win in the books for the Celtics. 117-103 over the Memphis Grizzlies. A 6-game road trip, Sherrod. 6 wins. Jimmy Toscano here, Sherrod Blakely there, Bobby Manning at the game, Noah Dalzell at the game, John Zan is in bed, I think, but that's okay. That's okay because the Celtics put Memphis to bed tonight, and this is what they've been doing, Sherrod. And this, the hard hat's on for a reason. It's been a minute since I had the hard hat on.
It's been a minute since you've had a game to put the hard hat on.
Exactly, and I missed a couple games here off on the West Coast trip. But this is a hard hat win, start to finish, against a really tough, hard-nosed Memphis Grizzlies team. Yeah, they're going through some things, coaching change and whatnot, but they've got real talent on that Grizzlies team, young talent, physical talent, the type of team that gives the Celtics trouble, typically. But this Celtics team right now, I'm telling you, man, they're playing the best basketball of the season right now at the perfect time. 7 games left going into the playoffs. I think this team's clicking on all cylinders. No Jaylen Brown tonight, no Luke Cornett, no problem. You got help from the old steer, Sherrod. A season high from Al Horford, and it honestly could have probably had 30+ tonight. He missed a couple of threes down the stretch that probably should have went down. But all hands on deck tonight, Sherrod. I'm gonna toss it to you and hit me with what you're loving out of this game.
Well, you can't talk about this game and not give some love to Al Horford. The grizzled veteran giving the Grizzlies a lot of problems.
There you go.
And Al, again, had the 3-ball going. I thought he did a really good job defensively. He moved well without the ball, being able to, start off behind the 3-point line, then relocate to where he's on the block and taking advantage of mismatches. This was a very vintage Al Horford back in the days when he was with the Atlanta Hawks kind of game. And, there are so many things about this game that you like. In addition to Al, you love the ball movement. The fact that I think in the first half, first quarter, first half, something like that, they had like 24 made baskets on 20.
Ball was whipping around.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, really moving. And I thought defensively, this Memphis team really loves to get up and down. And I thought the Celtics were able to minimize, their transition game. And even in a half court setting where Memphis was trying to speed things up, even in that space, the Celtics did a great job of consistently rotating, being where they needed to be, not allowing Memphis to get any kind of flow or rhythm. And, as the game wore on, the Celtics just gradually pulled away for the win.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Al. There was a nice game from Drew Holiday, who hit some big shots in the second half there for Boston. And Derek White, Mr. Clutch, Mr. 3-point shooter, officially broke the Celtics record tonight. And, it's going to be a race to the finish to see who ends up, I think, with that 3-point record in Boston, at least this season, at least. But goes to show the type of season he has had for this Celtics team. And he hits that 3 late in the fourth quarter there when it looked like Memphis had kind of clawed their way back in. I think they got it to 7. It was 15. They went on a run, made it interesting. And then Derek White hits that 3, kind of lets you exhale a little bit with a couple minutes left in that game. So again, you're getting some serious production on nights where guys are straight up not playing. So, I mean, again, the backcourt production tonight from Holiday and White, arguably, I would say the most complete backcourt duo in the NBA. And it looks like both those guys, and we'll talk about Holiday, I'm sure at multiple points in this one. And I know Bobby and Noah will touch on it too, but he's scoring against Sherrod. I mean, he doesn't have to, but he is. And when he does, I know the Celtics record is damn near perfect when he, gets to around that 14-point mark.
Yeah. I mean,
finished with 18 tonight.
Yeah. He definitely had a really good game, but you touched on a little bit Derek White's game. And, that 3-pointer that you talked about, it was big, not only in terms of what it meant to the score, but remember, that was a point in the game where Tatum was really losing it because I hate talking about officiating, but the officiating in this game kind of sucked. There were multiple times where Tatum was pretty obvious fouls. I mean, one time the official standing in front of Tatum didn't call it, but the one at half court did. That should never happen. Should never happen. And so Tatum was clearly getting frustrated. The three that Derek White hit, I thought was so huge, not only in terms of what it meant to the score, but it took a little bit of the steam out of just the anger that was building up in Tatum, so he was able to finish the game. And again, it was one of those Derek White moments that reminds us of how cool, calm, and collected he is more times than not with this team, and giving them exactly what they need when they need it most. And that was one of the many times he's done that this season for them.
14.
But your point about Holiday, yeah. I mean, Drew's balling, man. I mean, Drew is looking like Milwaukee Bucks winning a first chip for them in a minute. Drew, that guy, he's been really good. And just being really smart about just when to be aggressive, when to just kind of lay back in the cut, so to speak, and let other guys do their thing. And it's making the Celtics look incredibly scary come playoff time.
Yeah, it almost feels like the rest maybe for Holiday there, and him adjusting to that mallet finger. You know, it feels like forever ago everybody was concerned about mallet finger, doesn't it? Feels like a long, long time ago. He hasn't missed a beat, honestly. He's actually playing better. I want to know what the stats are. His shooting stats are post mallet finger.
Post mallet, yeah.
I mean, they're pretty damn good. That corner 3-point shot is ticking up nicely, I think. And you know, he's never not going to give you 100% on the defensive end. You're never really worried about that. And Derek White just continues to get better on that defensive end. So again, those guys rounding into form here. And I want to remind you, I missed this off the top of the show, Sherrod, but it's March Madness at CLNS too. We're talking NBA right now, but it's March Madness. I'm talking about the CLNS Garden Report bracket. And right now, it's the third center region matchup going on right now. And you can vote right here on YouTube right now. And you can also vote on Twitter, but it's the number 1 seed toothpaste sandwich up against the 4 seed You're Muted, which I think a lot of people think could make a run here. We haven't had any You're Muteds yet, Sherrod. With me and you, it probably won't happen. With John, we get about 17 You're Muteds because he's always in and out of the mute button. And You're Muted is something that will never go away, whether it wins or not. Toothpaste sandwich, I saw somebody ask in the chat. That goes back to about a month or so ago when I don't even know how it happened, but we got on a rant about how you brush your teeth, and if you go water, then toothpaste, then water, or do you do toothpaste, then water, or water, then toothpaste, and went on and on and on. Amit can probably find the link to the show at some point and put it in there, but that was a legendary moment in the show, and that's why that's the 1 seed. I think anyone who watched that show is probably voting for that one.
Yeah.
But you never know.
We started having people chime in on the chat about it as well.
We did. Everybody had a tape. Yeah. And then we've got Tatum Lullaby versus Noah's Tatum Hate, which is a 7 over the 7
That's
seed.
been a sleeper. That's
took down Laxative.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd get out of the first round.
We got a couple of upsets in the third center region. So Noah's Tatum Hate versus the Tatum Lullaby, which is oh, there she goes. Which is, everyone knows the lullaby music that we play. Tatum press conference. So anyways, get your votes in for that. We'll be announcing those winners probably Wednesday. What is it? The next day we announce them, or Wednesday's show. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And then you can see we already have 2 of the final 4 ready to go. Amit. Blame Pie versus Damn It Amit. 2 mainstays, I would say. So this should be good. We'll see. Damn it, Amit. He hit the music tonight though, so that was okay. We didn't get one of those. Yeah. Amit's doing God's work right now. He's doing like 17 different things. Yeah. See, he just says, "Don't give me more work." See that? All right, back to the game. That's our plug for the Garden Report bracket. We gave Al some love off the top, which I think was definitely due. Sherrod. We gave the backcourt some love. What'd you think of Tatum tonight? I thought that he came out of the gates pretty strong. I thought that, you mentioned a little frustration there in the second half and in that fourth quarter, but he finishes with 25 and 14, 2 assists, low for him, typically from what we've seen, but 10 to 24 from the field. Again, 2 of 11 from 3. These guys were jacking up threes tonight. Across the board. What did they end up taking? 50.
Over 50.
Yeah, it was close to 60, I thought, right? They took 62. They took 62 threes. A couple of launches towards the end of the game ticked that number up. But I thought Tatum again, he was aggressive. He was driving to the hoop. I think he was a little frustrated too with the officiating at times, which is normal for him.
Right.
That 3-pointer, again, not really falling tonight, but I thought he was able to give them what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, this was a pretty typical Tatum game.
4 turnovers too. Can't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, Tatum is one of those guys, and we've talked about this before, who can pretty much get you 25 points and it just be a ho-hum performance. Where a lot of guys in the league, 25 points is like a really good game. That's where he's at now, and I think he did most of his scoring came as the Celtics were starting to put a little bit of distance between them. So it wasn't those empty calorie points that a lot of guys have on nights like this. I mean, his points actually matter. They came at points in the game where they needed those baskets to, either position themselves to pull away or to extend the lead that currently in that moment. So this was not. I like what I saw at Tatum. The rebounding, again, I think that's been one part of his game that's gotten so much better this year that we don't really talk a lot about. Tatum racking up double-digit rebounds is becoming almost like an afterthought in many respects. There are very few games he plays where he's not an active participant in what the Celtics do on the boards. I mean, 5 rebound game is kind of that's a subpar game for Tatum.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the weird thing about this game was that he only had 2 assists, and yet the Celtics as a team had a ton of assists. And that was
strange.
A little bit oddity, but
it is strange, especially when you consider Brown didn't play. He's going to have the ball a bit more and probably going to be dishing it out a little. You would think a little bit more. I do think some of the shot. I mean, not to pick on Tillman, but there was a couple of easy assists for Tatum to Tillman that just those shots didn't go down. If you go back and look at the potential assists, maybe the numbers look a little bit better for Tatum tonight. Maybe he just got a little bit unlucky with some of the passes that he made. And again, the Celtics missed a lot of threes. They took a lot, but they missed a lot. So, chalk that up to whatever you will. But the 14 board shows me again, and this is against a physical, big, Grizzlies team. They had 7-foot something guy out there, 7'4", whatever. Morant's physical, Jackson's physical, Bane's physical. I mean, you go down the line.
Jackson, yep.
This Grizzlies team, they want to play. They want to be tough. They want to push people around and play physical. So I thought that, and again, the hard hat's on for a reason. I thought the Celtics matched that tonight. I thought that I thought they more than matched that tonight. I thought they answered that bell, and I thought they punched back. I mean, they were getting out in the break plenty of times. And again, we saw Porzingis throw down a couple of dunks, including that one on the break from, I think it was Tatum to Holiday,
and Holiday
with the little lob to Porzingis for the hammer. And that's kind of the attitude you want. I love seeing that with the Celtics team because it shows me they got a little bit of swagger kind of, at this point. Like they're feeling confident. They're feeling like they're in the flow of things. And they, to go on this 6-game road trip, Sherrod, I mean, what does that mean to you to first time in Celtics history? This isn't just some, slouch franchise here. If you do anything for the first time in history, it's a pretty big deal. But the Celtics, for the first time in history, go 6-0 on a 6-game road trip. Impressive. And that's, what are we, 75 games into the year? I mean, that's after everything and, the ups and downs of a season, the toll it takes on you. For these guys to go out there, go out west, go on the road, and finish it off against a tough Memphis team that's probably your toughest test on the road, and play the way they did, I think it speaks volumes about just where they are right now in the league.
And they did it where pretty much every night they were down at least one starter. And I think that, to me, what really makes this stretch stand out, the fact that they were able to not only win, but just really not really have any kind of buzzer beaters per se, games that came down to the last minute to decide, and do that night in, night out on the road against teams in the Western Conference without at least one of your starting 5 pretty much every game. But this is what the part of the Celtics narrative that I think really has people and foes worried. They're beating you in every way imaginable. This game they were the more physical team. That's what got them over the hump. Other games, they have been able to outshoot you. Other games, they're playmaking. Other games, it's their defense. They're finding a multitude of ways to put you to bed. And that, when you're going to the playoffs, makes every single game against the Celtics Russian roulette. Because you don't know how they're going to attack you and put you in your place. They've shown the ability to do it in a multitude of ways. And as you're game planning against them, you really can't adequately game plan because you don't have a sense of what you're going to be dealing with that night. And if you're Joe Mazzulla, I mean, not only are the Celtics ridiculously unpredictable now because of the way they can beat you, but now you're starting to see guys that you may not expect to plan on game planning against who could potentially go out there and give you problems. I think about Sherrod. In certain situations, he could be a problem for you. You look at Al Horford. You think Al Horford is at the end of the rope, and then lo and behold, he hits you for the 26 piece. Porzingis has been a cheat code, night in, night out. And now, as you pointed out earlier, Jimmy, Drew Holiday is starting to knock down shots again. And so when you start looking at what the Celtics are doing and you start looking at the ways in which they are impacting the game and the way that they're winning, they become the across-the-board cheat code because you don't know how to win this game. You don't know how to play them.
They have so many different ways to hurt you. I mean, you talk about, just look at the last game against the Spurs. Luke Cornett was like the player of the game in that one somehow.
Luke Cornett all of a sudden became Kevin McHale before our very eyes.
And Al Horford sits. And then tonight, Luke Cornett doesn't play. Al Horford plays. And it's a flip-flop of the two most important players. And it's there's so many different ways the Celtics can hurt you. So many different players on any given night can show up and just be the X factor or be like the focal point, and then like we mentioned, Drew Holiday, he had 21 points last game. What did he end up with, 16 or something tonight? But if you look at his I'm pulling up the numbers here, 18 tonight, 21 last game, and 16 in Phoenix. So again, the points are starting to creep in. You're starting to get this production from so many different places where if you're an opponent, you just, I don't know what else you can do, but just throw your hands up, because it's a talent issue. It's a mismatch. It's what it is. I mean, there's just too much talent.
And we're talking about what they're doing offensively, but they can really give you problems defensively. I was listening to Sirius FM or XM, over the weekend, and our good friend of the program, Vinny Goodwill, he was talking about the Celtics, and he made a really, really good point that I had not really given a whole lot of thought to, and that is the Celtics have basically at least three guys that can defend at an elite level on the perimeter. Most teams are fortunate if they get one or two. When you think about Derek White, you think about Drew Holiday, you think about Jaylen Brown, who on any given night can lock you up defensively. Yep. Not every night, but on any given night, it doesn't shock you when that happens.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, is what makes this team scary. Yes, they've got guys who can get buckets. Yes, they've got guys that can step up and do some things in the front court. But defensively, they're going to cause you problems, particularly when in the playoffs, things have a tendency to slow down. It becomes more of a half-court game. And the guys that you have got that can defend at a high level, those guys are going to stand out. And the Celtics have more of those type of guys than any other team. And so, again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that the Celtics are kind of a pick your poison squad in terms of how they can beat you and put you to bed.
What was there something on this road trip, Sherrod, that impressed you more than other things? Or is there a certain way the Celtics, you saw them play, or something that they did, or a player specifically that you kind of circled and said, I'm glad to have really seen this on this road trip? Is there something like that does stand out, or is it just, taking care of business? Here we are at this point in the season. Good to get guys some rest, whether or not they really want to or not, or whether it's due to injury. You got to hope Jaylen Brown is going to be okay. You don't like to see him in and out with sort of like certainly don't want to see anything with the knee. But if he's able to make that recovery and be healthy going into the playoffs, I think Mazzulla is doing a good job managing guys getting a break here and there as best as he can. Obviously, Tatum doesn't really ever want to take a break, but you got to do what you can. But whether it's Horford getting a night, or Porzingis, whoever. They seem to be able to balance the minutes, the days off with still, again, piling up these wins.
Yeah. Well, the guy that I frankly was most pleased with on this trip was Drew Holiday. I think he's been very up and down this year in terms of scoring the ball. And it's really hard. It's hard to tell whether it's just a function of what's happening or not happening offensively, or whether he just wasn't playing particularly well there. But I thought he did a really good job during this trip of picking his spots, when to be aggressive, when to be assertive, when to be more of a playmaker as opposed to a point producer. And I thought that was really great to see. Jalen is making me a little nervous. You're going to need him to win a championship. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. And, with him kind of being in and out, it makes me a little nervous, to be frank, particularly when you look at how close we are to the playoffs. You have to wonder whether you're going to, when he does come back before the playoffs, will he be on some type of minutes restriction, or will they look to put him on some type of minutes restriction? Not so much because he's hurt or anything like that, but more you want to preserve his health come playoff time and want to minimize the amount of just wear and tear that you're putting on his body. I personally think they really need to look into doing that to try to cut his minutes down as much as possible. And that affords other guys like Shireman, and some of those other guys, Jordan Walsh and those guys opportunities to get some burn before the playoffs. Because once the playoffs gets here, they're not going to get on the court except for practice for the most part. Or if guys are in serious.
And Brown didn't really look.
What's that?
Sorry, I think I'm on a little bit of a delay. No, Brown didn't even, and Brown played against us. He didn't look himself against the Spurs either. And I think that is part of the reason why he's not playing tonight. I think he's playing through some pain, trying to just be tough, shake it off. But it's not something that you really want to make worse, obviously. And I think it is in his best interest, the team's best interest, to try to rest that as long as possible and get back into, good enough health where you can be effective. How are they different when Jaylen Brown's not on the floor, or when he's not in the game, I should say? Sherrod, like what do you see them do differently? I mean, obviously Tatum has a different, effect on the game. Does the ball move differently? Is there certain players' roles that, you noticed change in a way when he's not out there?
The ball doesn't stick as much. And I think for the most part, they do a good job of moving the ball. But when he's not there, it really does move a lot more. Or at least that's what the eye test tells you. Guys like Derek White become more aggressive because they need someone to fill, that 20-plus points per game void that exists when Jalen is not out there. But I think it kind of feeds into this team's mantra for so many years, next man up mentality. And what we've seen whenever a guy is out, there's usually one or two guys whose game steps up appreciably, whether it's Peyton Pritchard knocking down shots off the bench, whether it's Derek White doing his thing. We've seen Luke Cornett and Al Horford go to work these last couple of games, but they find guys within their group, their core group, that are able to elevate their play when someone is down. And that's it's a testament to their understanding of adversity and the need to be have a perseverance pulse about them, knowing that you're going to have choppy waters, but you have to navigate your way past that if you want to get to your ultimate prize and ultimate destination, which is to win another NBA title.
The ultimate prize. You took the words right out of my mouth, Sherrod. That reminds me of our good friends at Prize Picks. Amit, hit me with the prize. Hit me with the Prize Pick. Actually, yeah, you got me, Amit. I knew you did. What is Prize Pick? You say, well, it's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And folks, it might not feel like it in Boston, but springtime is here. Baseball season is officially underway, and you do not want to miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond into your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. If you want to pick more or less on, let's say, I don't know, Rafael Devers strikeouts, you might want to pick more. Whatever that number is, just pick more strikeouts for Rafael Devers because the guy doesn't know how to make contact with the baseball. So that's a free one for you right there. You can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. They offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And don't forget also the basketball season's here too, guys. You know, we got Taco Tuesday tomorrow. We got Freaky Friday coming up. Basketball playoffs are coming up. So it's only going to get more and more fun. So download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Chug, 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 chug. There you go. What do we got in there? Love it. Hey, gotta stay hydrated. Bobby just checked in. He's supposed to be uploading some sound, so we'll hopefully get a little bit. He's talked to a couple players. Looks like he's talked to Horford and Tillman. Of course he talked to Tillman. Of course he talked to Tillman.
Why, Bobby? Why?
Of course he did. Why wouldn't he pass up that opportunity?
Just like Tatum passed up those opportunities to get some assists, and he passed.
Yeah, and also, guys, Noah versus Tatum Lullaby is live also on the Elite Eight bracket right now. That is, there it is again for everybody. I don't know how the toothpaste sandwich versus You're Muted is going, but you can now vote Tatum Lullaby versus Noah Tatum Hate for a berth to the Final Four in the third center region. I'm being told Muted won in a landslide, so we had an upset. Sherrod. Sounds like we have another upset. I don't know what the Twitter results look like, but I think I predicted You're Muted would make a little bit of a run here because it does happen a lot.
Really?
So again, we've got Bobby and Noah at the game. I wouldn't be shocked if one of those guys even asked a Tillman question, Sherrod. I mean, that's kind of like their bread and butter.
But why, Jimmy? He was horrible tonight. He's not a bad player. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think that he's had some really bad stretches.
Let's do a minute. All right, we'll do a minute on Tillman. Amit made the lower 30. Might as well do a minute on Tillman. All right. What? Shout out Joe for, I guess, giving Tillman the starting nod tonight, right? You know, against his old team. Maybe some friends in the building. But damn, I mean, we even put Clank in the lower third on it. Damn, dude.
Damn,
my man did not deserve that, but
damn, that's Amit, that's cold, bro.
He's not wrong though. I mean,
he's not, but damn. Well, it got to the point, Jimmy, where they were literally leaving him open. Like the minute the ball swung his direction, they would run in the opposite direction, giving him all the space he needs to raise up. This was a rough game for him. It was really bad because again, there was a conscious effort on his old team's part to let him shoot, and that's
I hate to see it.
You do. You hate to see that. You're hoping that one of them would go down.
You know, when you see the X, you want to be on your game. You know, you don't want them to be like, just let him do his thing. This is why we don't love him.
Memphis is just like,
right,
speaking
of Tillman, I guess we actually have a clip here from.
Oh boy!
What went into getting Xavier Tillman in the starting lineup today? Is part of it him being back in Memphis here? Was that part of the thinking?
Noah.
Absolutely. I think when you have moments when you're able to validate your entire roster, and
can you see it? Because I can't
appreciate accent.
No, I don't see it. I hear it.
We can't see it, Amit. Having some technical difficulties.
There we go.
Being back in Memphis here, was that part of the thinking?
Absolutely. I think when you have moments when you're able to validate your entire roster, and I just appreciate X, and you know, the entire roster is important for a season. X can still impact winning. You know, he was 0 for 5, but he got 2 big rebounds. He got 82 fouls to start the game, which affected their rim protection. He got a deflection steal in the third quarter on a live ball turnover. He can still impact winning, and I just appreciate who he is as a person, and I think you got to validate the roster at times, and I know that he can still help us, and there may be an opportunity where he does. So I was grateful that we were able to give him that opportunity to be able to do that.
Wow.
I mean, give Joe credit. That is the nicest way you could spin that game. And to his point, Tillman did miss that three, and then I think he caused us like a turnover on the ensuing possession. So, it's not due to lack of effort. We can say that about Tillman. It's not like he's just standing around out there. I think he's just a little bit limited in what he can do. And I think maybe the expectations were a little bit higher than maybe they should have been when it came to how people thought Tillman could be a serious part of this rotation. I mean, I'm not saying he was going to be the first guy off the bench, but I think people expected to see decent amount of Tillman this year. And it's really to the point now where, he got an opportunity tonight. Joe can say whatever he wants, but I think overall there's probably some better options, coming off the bench. When you get deeper into that rotation, I don't really think Tillman's a guy you're going to see once the playoffs come around or in situations where the team might be a little shorthanded. I just don't think that he's going to be a go-to guy for them.
No, I mean, I think you start looking at just the way this team is constructed and assuming that everyone's healthy, they're probably going to go 9, maybe 10 deep. And even then, Tillman's not going to be in that list. You look at the bench, you're going to
I'd be surprised if they even went 10.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think that Joe will go into games with a 10-player consideration, knowing he's going to play probably 7, 8, maybe 9, depending on how things go. But you want to be comfortable with another 5 guys. And when you look at the way this team is look at the bench, you got Pritchard, you're going to have Al, you'll have Luke, you've got, Baylor is another possibility. Pritchard, I think I mentioned him. Sam Hauser. So the way that this team is built.
Torrey Craig.
Yeah, Torrey Craig. I mean, there's a number of guys, all the guys that I just rattled off without question are ahead of Tillman in the pecking order. So it's good. I mean, it's good to see him do some positive things out there, but you would like to have seen him knock down at least 1 or 2 of those open jump shots that he had, especially after Memphis was making a point of running in the opposite direction or running as far away from him when he had the ball to basically say, we dare you to take that shot. We dare you. And he did. And every time it just didn't work out. So I think
I think if you're going to have a healthy Cornet, there goes that, that little experiment right there. I mean, I know that they're different players, but even a guy like Keita, I like what he can give you, even though he's not going to hit threes either. But if Tillman's not going to hit him, then it's not really worth putting him out there, right? I mean, there's better 3-point shooters on this Celtics team if that's what the goal is, 3-and-D type situation. So again, shout out Tillman for being available, but aside from maybe some garbage time minutes in some of these last games down the stretch here, I just don't think you're going to see a whole lot of them. So that was talking Tillman. Hopefully Bobby and Noah don't give us another 30 minutes on Tillman. Pray that they don't. But we shall see. We're going to try to get Bobby on here soon. I know he's still uploading some sound from the game, and he talked to Horford too. The way Horford's playing, Sherrod, I mean, they got guys like Tillman thinking that, they might need some insurance since they might need guys to come in and spell Horford for a bit, but he might outlast all these guys, Sherrod. I mean, he's not going away anytime soon. I mean, he could play for the way he's playing right now. I mean, it's reminiscent of like what LeBron's doing in a way. I'm not comparing the two players, but these are two guys at the tail ends of their career, or supposed to be anyways. And they're still, just as effective today as they were 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a situation where, Al, there's a player that used to, that was drafted by Toronto, and on draft night, they said he was 2 years away from being 2 years away. Al Horford is like 2 years away from being 2 years away of retirement. It's like, just when you think he's getting close to that point, you realize he's not really playing like someone who's close to being at that point. And these are the kind of games that remind you of that. to me, it wasn't so much the 26 points as much as it was the way he went about getting those points, the way that he was able to really mix in how he impacted the game, whether it was taking guys on a block and taking advantage of a mismatch, knocking down a catch and shoot three, scoring, baseline jumper, whatever it needed to happen in order to be impactful. He was able to do that and do it at a high level that, you find yourself forgetting that this is someone who, based on the calendar, should be nearing the end of the road. And these were the kind of games, and this West Coast trip, I think, to some extent, was a reminder that Al's got a little bit more in the tank than I think people necessarily believe is there. But again, I just look at the way he was just able to just pretty much get anything and everything he wanted out there and make the most of that moment and opportunity. And that's very unusual for a player at his age in the NBA to still be able to make a significant impact in terms of their ability to score in a multitude of ways.
I mean, with Al Horford, I mean, if he can, let's say he continues to play the way he's been playing. Let's say the Celtics win another championship and he's a big part of that and he comes back. I mean, I feel like we're talking about a guy that might be severely underrated. Like when you take a look at his career at the end of things, longevity wise, just the way he's adapted his game, changed his game completely, became, went from like a sort of like a bruiser down low guy to, a really lethal outside shooter. When he does retire someday, some decade, I don't know when that will be, you're going to talk about a guy that, he might go down as one of the better players of his generation and really unheralded, not in the news, not causing any problems, no drama, stays out of the limelight. And that's probably why maybe not a lot of people talk about him as much, but I think he gets a lot of respect from, his peers, players around the league. I think they know the type of player that he is and the respect that he has across the league. I think it's probably a lot, maybe harder for NBA fans who aren't like Celtics fans or Hawks fans to really appreciate Al Horford. But I think someday we'll look back, obviously he's a surefire Hall of Famer and maybe, probably first ballot and a guy that really just played the game the right way, treated his body the right way. And I think it's paying dividends now because he was such a pro and did do all the right things on and off the court that he's still able to play at this high level.
Yeah. I mean, with Al, he just gets it. He just gets it. I mean, he just gets what has to be done, when it has to be done, and how his role in the perch that he sits on is going to allow that to happen. This game is very much the kind of game that Al Horford has in him. Now, you're not going to get this every night, but you're going to have the potential to get this, every now and then, because that's just what he has to offer. I'm the big thing with me and Al is just really hoping that he stays healthy enough to finish this thing out. That's my biggest concern with him. And the Hall of Fame stuff, I don't think there's any question that he's going to go down as a Hall of Famer. And if they win a second title, I think he might very well be well, if they win a second title, I think he may very well be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I'll be honest, I don't even know how it works with basketball and first ballots and stuff. I don't know. Is it that big of it? Do you just pretty much when you're eligible, you just get in? It's not like baseball, I don't think.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. I mean, the year that you're first made eligible, your first opportunity to get in, that's what that's about.
Now, the real question is this. Jimmy J asked Sherrod, 42 in the rafters. What do you think?
If they win a second title, I would say no.
Really?
Well, here's why.
More than Pierce, more than Garnett.
Look at the guys that are up there and look at Al's body of work. Now, the thing about Al that I love personally is how he transformed his game to stay in the game. Al was a back to the basket baseline, short baseline jump shot maker. And now all of a sudden he becomes a catch and shoot corner 3-ball shooter, catch and shoot top of the key, catch and shoot from the wing. He has changed up his game in a significantly dramatic way. And, it has allowed him to thrive in the NBA. Where if he continued to play the way he did when he was in Atlanta, Al Horford probably wouldn't be in the league right now. He would probably be, doing something else and being amazing.
Be with Josh Smith somewhere.
Right. But he had changed his game up to not only become a better, more diverse, more dynamic player, but he's won a championship and potentially could add a second to that. And I think that is going to make him a Hall of Famer, not only because, again, the numbers that he put up and the All-Star things and just winning a championship, but also the way that he transformed his game. Al is really, when you think about it, one of the first truly success stories of a back-to-the-basket post player who transformed his game, and it had a significant impact on not just winning games, but winning a championship. But I can't, as much as I love Al and what he brings to the table, I can't see him going up in the rafters. Not with the talent on this team right now. When I look at Tatum, I look at Brown. No. And the same thing goes for Porzingis. Can't see it. Can't see.
Well, yeah, the body of work for Porzingis won't ever. I don't think it'll ever be there. I mean,
Horford's been on. The interesting one will be Drew Holiday. That one, him and Al would be interesting. I would put him in the same boat as Al, though. I don't think either one of them goes.
The difference is Al's been on the team a lot longer. I mean, Drew Holiday is like an assassin. He's on the Celtics team. Comes in, they win a championship. They could win another one this year, and for all we know, Holiday could be off the team. I don't want that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that is a possibility,
it's
right?
A possibility, yeah.
Horford's been in this organization for I don't know how many years now, but a long time. What, 7 years, something like that? I don't even know.
Between the two stints, yeah.
Yeah, he was their first really like big free agent signing, right? Remember when Al Horford signed with the Celtics? Obviously they didn't win a championship when that run, but then he comes back, they win. He comes back, he's back with the team again this year. If they win another one this year, I just think it's up for debate. And I guess that's what we're doing now. We're having a little debate about it.
Here's the thing. I tell you what, Jimmy, if they win another one and Al has numbers that are closer to what we saw when he was in Atlanta, or Al is like, if he's getting you like 14, 15 points a game and you win another title, then you might want to think about it. You definitely need to think about it. But I just think that, the Celtics, as great a legacy and tradition that they have, sometimes they get a little loosey-goosey when it comes to those damn jersey numbers going up in the rafters. And Al, again, I definitely worth consideration. But to me, it's not. I just don't feel it's a shoo-in that he'll be up there. And if it happens, I'll be happy as hell for him.
No,
because just again, me knowing Al going all the way back to when he was in high school, it's great to see him kind of grow and evolve and be this great basketball player, great man. But when you're talking about having your number go up in the rafters for the Boston Celtics, as great a player as he is, and as great a person as he is, I just don't think the body of work aligns itself with that. If he wins like Finals MVP, this year, then yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we call that the Cedric Maxwell rule. You go up there. If you're a good player and you win Finals MVP, then yeah, no one's gonna complain or bitch and moan about that. But if Al is getting you like maybe 9 points and 5-6 rebounds coming off the bench and you win a championship, I'm not really feeling that's
fair.
Raptor worthy.
He might, he might control his own destiny in that sense if he has a little bit more of an effect. But one guy who would be a lot less surprised is raised to the rafters. Jason Tatum spoke after the game today, and we do have some footage here. I do not know what he had to say, but Amit's going to go hit us with the Jason Tatum clip, and let's hear from the future Hall of Famer and maybe banner raised player, Jason Tatum. I don't know if Amit's paying attention. I'm going to do it myself.
Been done in franchise history before. What does that mean to you for you guys to kind of do something like that?
I mean, it's special. Anytime you make history in this league, you gotta enjoy that. 6 games, 12, 13 days away from home. What?
You said making history is special. You're not talking about me. You're talking about us.
Something's funny.
I know. I wish we were in on the joke.
We'll ask Bobby what they said.
I lost my fucking train of thought.
Whoa!
Oh,
What is this road trip?
Guys,
Road
this is a
trip. We
family
won a lot
show.
of games. Keep it up.
What does the city mean to you? I saw you posted earlier today being back in Memphis. What does Memphis mean to you?
Yeah, I played with the Memphis War Eagles when I was in like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. My stepdad, that's when my mom met my was-to-be stepdad. And I used to come to Memphis all the time in the summertime, spend a lot of time here when I was younger. So I got
Right, we are voting
family,
on
a lot
it.
of friends. The closest city, NBA city, is St. Louis or Indiana. I used to come up here all the time. It's only like a 3.5-hour drive. So I just built a lot of relationships, over the last 15 years or so. I got a lot of love for the city of Memphis.
Did you get to go to the Tigers facility earlier?
I did. Got to see Penny Hardaway, and that's a family friend of mine that I've known since I was like 10.
Penny.
So went up there and worked out on the court and lifted weights, and just got to see him.
Did you have a goal coming into the season to see the assists go up as much as they have? Like, was there a target for you? And just when you look back at your passing growth, it's like been the most important thing in that part of your game, really elevated.
Just staying consistent and not getting bored, making the right play over and over. It's just all about reading whatever the defense is doing, and just living in that space over and over again.
Did you imagine earlier in your career, maybe back at Duke, that you would be a point forward type player one day? Like, is that something you envisioned yourself becoming?
Yeah, just over time, studying film, studying from guys that I looked up to, and just knowing if I wanted to be who I said I wanted to be, I had to improve my game overall.
Is there a certain makeup of this team that y'all play that well on the road?
Just the mindset of what we did last year. We won a championship. The idea that regardless of your record or your seed, you got to win some games on the road in the playoffs if you want to be a champion. So kind of established that mindset throughout the regular season.
Jason, you've always kind of towed the line on the 16 technicals.
Gary!
You're close. Like, how do you kind of know when you want to make a statement and want to get your point across, and when you're like, okay, I can't do this tonight?
I don't know what. Depending on the night. Some things that you say on a Tuesday, it's cool. You say them on a Saturday, they give you a text. So I ain't got that shit figured out yet. I'll let you know when I do.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jason.
Oh, Gary, well done. Sometimes on Tuesday, don't work on Saturday. Love it, love it, love it. He's right, though. I mean, I hate talking about officiating, but some of the stuff that went down tonight was just absolutely bananas. Again, and to me, the most blatantly what the hell just happened moment was when Tatum got fouled and the referee literally in front of him on the play, didn't make the call, but the guy at half court did. And it wasn't as if the guy at half court had a significantly better angle. It's just that he just made the call. That was pretty obvious to anyone from no matter what your angle was. And those are the kind of things that I think really frustrate players. I mean, for example, there was a sequence where there was a foul that went against the Celtics, a foul that went for the Celtics, and then they finally made a call on a Scottie Pippen Jr. driving layup attempt. And it was just did they think that was his daddy? Why they made that call? Because they missed the three previous opportunities to make a foul. So anyway, we got Bobby in the building, or we don't have Bobby in the building. Where'd Bobby go? Jimmy, I've lost you sound-wise as well.
My bad. I was muted. We had Bobby. I think he's on like a 56K modem or something. And
one of those Radio Shack babies from back.
Yeah, he's winding up the power somewhere. Joe Sway's helping him out, I guess. We'll try to get Bobby back on. I don't know. He might have a poor internet connection at the arena right now. Why don't we, let's listen to Derek White then, because we have a Derek White clip here, and we'll see if we can get Bobby back on, and we'll hear what our friend Derek White had to say.
Said you guys have been talking about that 3-point record. What it feel like to break it tonight?
Yeah, we talked about it on the plane, and it's pretty cool that there's 3 of us like so close to doing something special. And honestly, just looking back on my career, I never thought I'd be in this position, and so I'm just thankful for the coaching staff, thankful for the guys on this team, and I know I wouldn't be able to do it without them. So I'll hold it for now until one of them breaks my record. So that's cool.
Why do you say that?
Because they're great at what they do.
No, that you didn't think you would be able to do this.
Did you watch me early in my career? I think
Yeah,
it's pretty
both went to
self-explanatory, but I even didn't think I would shoot this many threes, and so just keep developing. Thankful to have a coaching staff and teammates that believe in me and trust me and allow me to go out there and be aggressive and do what I do.
Yeah, and then do you plan to hold it over those guys' heads for a little while here?
No, I hope they forget about it so they don't try to go out and break it. But I'm just gonna enjoy it and see what happens the rest of the year. But if one of them breaks it, couldn't happen to someone better, and I'll be happy for them.
Did it really start to click for you as a shooter? Is there a moment you look back on, or summer, just some adjustment you made that really got this run going?
Yeah, after the finals, I feel like it's like the biggest summer of my life. And obviously, what happened to the finals and how I was being guarded, on that stage, it was like one of the lowest points. I told Draymond after the Olympics that he kind of changed my life because they weren't guarding me, so I had to go in that summer, and me and my trainer Marcus Mason just focused on being consistent.
Shout out to Marcus Mason.
I just be able to get better and better.
What was that conversation like with you when you told him that?
There's a lot of mutual respect. I think he just sees the work that I put in to change how I play, and I've always had a lot of respect for him, and so I think it was just mostly his mutual respect.
How can you not like Derek White? Really? Is there a more likable Celtic on this team than Derek White? I don't think there is.
Noah, let's rank most likable Celtics players. We'll start with the least likable, though. You start us off with the least likable.
Well, it's Tatum, isn't it?
Oh, we got our first year muted. We got our first year muted. Got her. That's why you're muted in the bracket.
I wasn't muted. One of you guys
were
muted me.
literally muted.
No, but someone muted me.
Well, I didn't mute you,
Jimmy.
I didn't mute her.
No,
Don't look at me.
Jimmy,
now we lost. Now we lost
away.
Noah. They're dropping. I didn't listen.
You made her go
my
away,
hands are right
Jimmy.
here. I didn't even take her off the screen. I didn't mute her. Her computer's got a mind of its own over there, apparently. You know what? What I want to do before they jump back on, I want to do the game time read. Ahmed, hit me with the game time read so we can get this one done, and then we can hopefully get Bobby and Noah to say a couple of informative things before they get booted. Game time, guys. What do we know about game time? It's just an awesome place to buy, tickets to sporting events, tickets to concerts. You download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. We've got baseball heating up. The Red Sox are coming back to Boston later this week. Will Rafael Devers have a hit by the time they make it? We're not sure. Will he even make contact with the ball? We're not sure. But what we do know is that the home opener is Friday, and right now you can get in for $130. It's a nice little Friday afternoon. What's a better way to kick off the weekend than at Fenway Park, home opener, 2:00 start. Red Sox are hosting the Cardinals, and you can get in right now for $130. Have some fun in the bleachers, but there's price points and great seats available all over all over the Fenway Park. The game I've got my eyes on, Sherrod, is actually I always go to Marathon Monday. I love Marathon Monday baseball game. 11 a.m. game at Fenway. Hopefully it's like a nice day out. Get in there, you get out. The game's over by like 1:30. You walk out into like Lansdowne area. All the runners are running through Kenmore Square. It's a lot of fun, good atmosphere, great vibes. I would tell anybody, if there's one baseball game you go to, make it the Marathon Monday Red Sox game. That's my take. And at game time, there's plenty of seats, plenty of opportunities to get into that one. And that's right now, you can get into that game for $63.
Wow.
$60 on game time to get to the Marathon Monday game. So something to think about. Game time, best seats, lowest price, guaranteed. I want to make sure I get the most important part, which is download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Sherrod?
Game time.
Game time. It's also time to hopefully hear from Bobby and Noah. Amit, let's see if we can get these guys on. There's Bobby. He's looking a lot cleaner. There's Noah. Not muted. Guys, we're doing it. We're actually doing it. Look at us. Bobby, can we hear you? Yeah, we can. All right. Let's start from the beginning. Let's go back in time. Celtics with a 117-103 win over the Grizzlies. They go 6-0 on their road trip. I'd like to get both of your opinions on this road trip. What stood out to you the most? What are you most impressed with? Are you concerned about anything? We'll start with Noah. Ladies first.
Thank you.
And that was Noah. Bobby, your thoughts. Just kidding.
Okay. So I think, honestly, first thing is I just keep going back to that period of time where we were worried about this team in December and January, and they just didn't seem like they had the same connectivity on the floor. A lot of guys were going through it individually. It just feels like such a distant memory right now. And as they're heading into the playoffs, anything can happen. There's some great teams that they'd have to beat to win a championship. But on their end, you really couldn't be happier with how the season went. And I think this road trip exemplified a lot of the great things that this team was able to do. 6-0. I can't believe the no Celtics team has ever done it in history, but
I can either.
It's representative considering how good they've been on the road this year. I think they're 32-7 on the road, and you saw a lot of different guys contribute to different games. It was the Tatum game, there was the Al Horford game. Luke had his moment. Like most guys in this roster had a big moment on this trip, or a lot of guys in the roster, maybe not most, because some people didn't play a lot, but. Nevertheless, yeah, I think this was a kind of a perfect example of why this team is still, I think, the championship favorite or one of the championship favorites.
Yeah, and I think the way they're rolling now is really impressive because of the fact that you think you're going to slip up in at least one of these games here. This is the one I actually thought we would see it in, but they escaped the slow start, I thought. The punches the Grizzlies threw at them in that first quarter. I mean, Memphis 60 from the field and 50 from three. And just the pace they played at, I thought, overwhelmed the Celtics a little bit early. And then they were just able to stabilize things and build a lead and extend it and just getting the full control by the end of this game. And, going back earlier in the road trip, not a lot of impressive teams, some tough ones. Utah's not great. Portland's getting going a little bit here. Suns are just crashing and burning. So there wasn't a test until tonight, I felt like, and I was really interested to see how they'd respond to a team that just fired their coach, that beat them last time, that plays a tough style, and I think has a defense that can really challenge them in a lot of different ways. And they just mostly took care of business. And the Grizzlies tried a lot of gimmicks and stuff that could have thrown them off. Obviously, they did it last game with the Holiday thing, and tonight it was Horford. They tried guarding Porzingis with Bane, and the Celtics just rolled through it all, and I thought adjusted to the pace this game was being played at and gave Horford all the looks he needed, and he converted them, and Tatum was great, and all the way down the line, plus the depth contributions you continue to get here. They're in a really good place, Jimmy. I almost feel like them and the Thunder every night are just kind of doing one thing to one-up each other. It's like the Celtics are trying all this different stuff and figuring out new things you didn't know they could do, and the Thunder are winning by 30, and the Celtics are winning by 20, and they just keep one-upping each other, and I keep saying it, Noah. I feel like there's just two teams. There's two teams that are going to be there at the end. They're just on a rocket collision course right now. Celtics have really started to separate themselves, I feel like, from the pack in the East late this season. And honestly, you're only worried about health, Jimmy. And obviously there is one big health concern coming out of this trip.
Yeah, we mentioned Jaylen Brown. We'll get I want to get your guys' take on Jaylen Brown at some point, not right now. I want to focus on this game a little bit more. One of the things me and Sherrod mentioned earlier was on any given night, it's somebody else. Like you, I'm sure, Bobby, you had plenty of things to say about Luke's performance against the Spurs. Well, tonight he doesn't play. And in that same Spurs game, Al Horford didn't play. Well, tonight Al Horford plays. And you can make the case he was the best player on the court tonight, right? Just missed 30 points. Probably could have had it if a couple of shots go down in that fourth quarter. But what Al Horford's able to give you, it feels like whether it's Horford, whether it's Holiday right now, guys are stepping up that aren't Tatum, that aren't Brown, that aren't Porzingis. And they're just overmatching the opponent. And we saw that. I think that's what we saw on this road trip, is that when the Celtics team is kind of clicking and they win in many different ways, right? And tonight was just another way, but it feels like they're just overpowering these lesser teams, and it's not close.
Yeah, that's what they did a year ago, Noah.
Bobby, Noah.
Like, and early this season, you didn't see it as often. That was one of the things when we were debating, is this team better than last year's team? It was just one of the things I had written down. Like, they weren't able to sustain as much, guys being out, or different things that they did a year ago to stay at that pace. And then more recently, they've gotten back on that pace. And I've been more open to that argument. No, I didn't believe in it. Probably 3 weeks ago when we talked about it. Are they better than last year? I'm getting there. As I start to watch them night in, night out, some of the new things that they can do, the layers to this team. Obviously, the competition we've talked about is greater. But it feels like they've leveled up to that competition and found new ways to win and new things to tap into. The experimenting over the last couple of weeks here, I think, has been really good. So would I say they're better than last year? Probably not still, but I'm getting there.
Well, here's the thing, Bobby. I think they are better than last year, because when your game, to me, the determining factor of whether they're better is what do opponents have to worry about now that maybe they didn't have to worry about last year. And that to me, that's why they're better. The Celtics have more ways to put you to bed now than they did a year ago. When you start looking and go down the lineup and go down the roster. Old man Al still got juice in the tank. Peyton Pritchard can do some things now that he was not able to do last year. Jason Tatum on a bad night is going to get you 25 points. You start looking at this roster, I think they are better because they have the ability to impact winning on a much grander scale. The guy that, and I think you both touched on this, was Jaylen Brown. His situation worries me because you're going to need him to win a championship. There's absolutely no getting around that. And his health does concern me going forward. I don't think it's like anything career injury or ending or anything like that. But it seems like there's enough potential damage there to slow down his availability at some point and make him potentially unavailable for a game or two. And even though the Celtics are playing so much better, I want them to keep their core guys healthy enough night in, night out. And Jaylen is the one wild card that I'm just not sure that's necessarily going to happen for the duration of the playoffs, or even at the start for that matter.
Did tonight worry you more, Noah, him have to miss another game? Because you were starting to get a little worried there about him.
It didn't impact it because honestly, I think the reality is we know he's been in and out of the lineup for weeks now. And so what goes into the decision whether to play him in a particular night or not, I don't know if it's the other team's physicality, if it's how he's feeling that day in warmups, I don't know. So it doesn't give me a lot of information, but I agree with Sherrod. I won't go back into it because I think I talked a lot about it on the last show. But if there is a concern, he's the one guy that is so hugely important who has an injury that seems to be very much a factor. Like Drew's mouth finger, we were talking about it a couple weeks ago. It's not a story anymore. He was showing us the other night. He was showing us that he hasn't moved it in weeks. He doesn't even really realize it anymore. He's shooting fine. He's playing actually his best basketball. So I think as we're looking at the big picture, there's a lot of X factors, Porzingis' health, I'm never going to take it for granted because we've seen how many things he's dealt with over the past season and a half. I'm not going to take for granted even guys that have been really durable's health because you see what happens on any play. Like your entire franchise can change. I hate to put that energy out there, but I'm not taking them for granted. But Jalen's thing right now is real, and that's why we've been talking about it because we see it visibly with just watching him play. It's pretty unusual to see an NBA player in a lot of pain physically and still see them out there. Usually they get pulled, especially during the regular season. So I think that's why it became a little bit of a story. That being said, I think I still leave this trip more encouraged than anything because they do have enough to get by most teams without him. I do believe that. I felt that way with Porzingis last year. There's just so much talent on this team, and there's just beyond talent, there's so much chemistry and continuity in their lineup that I felt like tonight I didn't notice Jalen wasn't playing. Even when Tatum sits sometimes, I think like they have enough without him, which is kind of wild considering how much he's involved in everything on the floor. So yeah, I don't know. I think, obviously he's going to need to be at his best to beat like the Thunder. That's the big matchup. As much as we can be excited about how Boston's playing on the other side of the conference, what Oklahoma City's doing. I don't know if everybody here is paying attention to it, but they're putting it together one of the best regular seasons in NBA history. They really are by most metrics that you look at. And so I don't want to get too carried away here, but overall, I think you feel comfortable with how they've been able to win in so many different ways, in so many different situations. And tonight, down by 11, Bobby and I had great seats. We were sitting like the first row today, and I was looking at their body language, and nobody seemed like stressed out about it. Nobody seemed to overreact. They knew they were going to get back into it, and they did. And next thing you know, they're up by 11, and that's a good sign against a good team.
It's so crazy, Jimmy. You can almost just boil it down to one thing, and it is the threes. Like there were so many things Memphis was doing better than them in this game. And then 3 threes in a row. I think it was like Tatum, Horford, and Holiday maybe. And boom, they're in the lead. And then build on that lead the rest of the way. They hit 21 threes in this one without even shooting a great percentage to Memphis's 11. And I feel like we watched so many games that go that way, Noah, where it's close. The other team's really working hard, trying some stuff, just keeping it close. And then the Celtics hit 3 threes and boom, it's a 10-point game. And then they're off to the races from that point on. We're seeing that more often recently. They're back up into that top 5-6 teams in 3-point percentage. They're back to being a team across the board that can hurt you. You try to ignore Allen. He does what he did tonight. You try to ignore Holiday, and he's starting to get going a little bit here. We'll see with Jalen, when he's back in the lineup. But a lot of guys are starting to get hot again here. Tatum at times too. And this is still the big, big advantage they have on everybody. Like Oklahoma City can't shoot threes like this. Indiana can't shoot threes like this. Cleveland's trying, but they don't get up the attempts. And they've gotten hot a lot of times this year, but they can't shoot 60. And I almost feel like we underrate the Celtics' ability to just get up 50, 60. Like you can try to launch them, but I don't see many other teams able to do it no matter how hard they try. And for the Celtics, it's just second nature. And you've mentioned it too, Noah. The way they do it isn't just launching them up. They create them out of mismatches. They create them out of movement. And there's such a great shot quality to them that it's still their big, big edge on the rest of the league. No one's in their universe in being able to create threes.
And I think that's probably the part of the game that the national media, the critics overlook the most. And it was after Phoenix, I think it was Grayson Allen who said, everybody talks about them chucking threes, but it's not that. It's like the way that they're able to create threes, you have to give them up. Like you don't, and obviously Phoenix's defenses could be a whole other show, but I do think, the way that they're getting these shots, it's an impossible conundrum. And the fact that Memphis resorted to leaving Al Horford wide open and continue to do so down the stretch. He had 26 points and they were leaving him wide open completely, not even really closing out on him.
Yeah.
It's not because their new coach is an idiot. It's because teams just don't know what to do with this team. And the only
Remember
one.
Jordy Fernandez?
Yeah, it was like every time we pregame, especially every time someone asks about guarding the Celtics, it's always like they know they need to try some gimmick, whether it was Golden State leaving Jalen open last year or Memphis leaving Drew open previously. Like you have to sell out on a guy that consistently has been able to hit threes in their career. And that's why Oklahoma is different, because they don't have to sell out because they have a ridiculous defensive lineup out there. But most of the teams just don't have the personnel to hang with Boston. And I think you saw that again tonight. And Al was kind of laughing. I don't know if you guys played his post game, but Al was kind of laughing at the beginning when asked about that, because it was like, he doesn't really know why either, but he'll relish in it if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, we didn't get to play Al tonight, but I love the way the Celtics moved the ball tonight. I don't know if that's because of the personnel that was out there on the court, but they're getting these 3-pointers, Bobby, because they're whipping the ball around. They're working it around. Everybody is sharing. I love the unselfish style of play that I saw tonight from them. I really thought this was one of their better performances that I've seen. I don't want to say like of the entire season, but it kind of felt that way a little bit. I just really liked the intensity on both ends. I liked that when they went down 10, they were able to just like that, Bobby, you said it, 3 straight threes, all of a sudden like erases a 10-point deficit. And then I thought they were aggressive. I thought they matched the Memphis' physicality. It's a team that wants to play tough, play hard-nosed basketball. And Boston kind of met them there. They didn't, even though they did take 62 threes or whatever, it didn't feel like they were a one-dimensional team. It felt like they were still, working the ball around, getting good looks. They were driving when they needed to. They played solid defense. I just thought it was a good all-around performance. We got a question I think is kind of interesting from X3. Thank you for the super chat. We'll go around the horn here. We'll start with Sherrod because I haven't heard from him in a minute. Question for the panel. If you had to choose one starter to be without for the playoffs, which one would you choose? Now, we don't want to put this into existence, but let's just say one of the starters missed the team flight. Okay. And they can't, for the whole series.
For the playoffs, there'd be much bigger concern.
Yeah, he's missing an.
No, I like this framing though because he's not putting any bad energy out there, which I accidentally keep doing. So the missing the team flight is a good proposition here.
Yeah,
and the snowstorm keeps him from catching the connecting flight that would get him there. And
instead they have a great day with their friends and family.
He ended up on Spirit Airlines. Yes, exactly. So Sherrod, why don't you start us off?
I would say if the one guy I think you can maybe be without. I'm going to say Drew Holiday. I don't like the idea. To me, it's the least painful of a lot of painful decisions if we're talking about this, because the idea of not having Tatum or Jaylen Brown is just a non-starter in my eyes. Porzingis, you can make a case for KP.
I think he's more important this year.
I do too, which is why I went with Drew Holiday. I think that if it wasn't for Peyton Pritchard's, frankly, improved play, I would be a little bit less willing to play this game and have Drew Holiday be my choice. But of the 5 guys, Drew's the one that I would probably think you could get by without.
So John's watching somewhere, Jimmy.
He's screaming. I'm baiting John to jump on.
Yeah, and you know what? Normally it works, so we'll probably see John in about 5 minutes.
So, with respect to him, I thought about it, but I'm gonna go Drew like Sherrod, and that this is a question that looms this summer when you get into all the money stuff, and they're probably gonna have to make a decision like that. And we've gotten some reporting like that might be where they're looking going out this year. So, in reverse order. I think it obviously Tatum least, White.
Well, hold on. Let's get the rest of the panel here before you start ranking everybody's importance. Noah.
Okay.
I hope you all know this is a question I don't take any joy in answering. I really hate this question.
Tatum. She's gonna say Tatum.
Can you imagine? Imagine if I legitimately made that case right now.
Do it for the bit.
You see how good they looked without him the other night?
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna pick Kristaps.
Me too.
And okay. And the reason for that is because of the faith that I have in Al Horford. Honestly, that's the main reason. So it's no slight to Kristaps. He's been awesome this season, but I would pick Kristaps because I saw Al Horford step up in big moments. I see the way he's playing right now. I'm leaning in all the way. Bobby had to talk me down on the Al Horford is at his prime right now. Obviously, I know he's not at his prime, but the way that he has been playing, I think it's sustainable. They've been resting him a lot. He looks fresh, and that starting lineup still with Al Horford in the lineup is the best starting 5 that they have. They're a plus 17 with that group, and they're still in the negatives with Kristaps. And I think there's a lot of reasons for those fluctuation in numbers, but that's what I'm going to pick if I have to. But hopefully everybody will be healthy and available, and they'll be able to win with their full roster.
Yes, it goes
So
without
Noah
saying.
hates Kristaps now too?
Sure, we
I
can start a
know.
new hashtag. We can start a new hashtag.
Out with the old, in with the new. No,
But I think we should wrap this question shortly because this is so toxic.
Okay,
This
let
is
me
like the
just.
definition of like a basketball postgame show talking about this instead of like the game that just happened.
It's.
We're just
talking
responding to the
strategy.
people.
It's entertaining, but I'm just
strategy.
acknowledging it's very toxic.
We can't
so.
just say the best every night.
Right. Well, so I'm
Okay,
gonna.
fine.
I'm gonna.
I participated in the question.
You did a good job. I'm gonna
She's
piggyback.
done. She's done.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what Noah said. I also will say Kristaps Porzingis for a few reasons. One, and Bobby alluded to it. You did it already, right? You won a majority of the games, or you have been winning
And you
majority of games
continue to this year.
without him. Yes. Two, to Noah's point, Al Horford is having another unbelievable season. Me and Sherrod did a chunk of the show just basically praising Al Horford. I'll ask you guys a question that another commenter asked. I'll ask you guys that question in a little bit. Also, shout out Cornette. I mean, you've got a backup now too. If Horford's going to be getting extended
A
minutes,
third center.
you've got a third center that is playing
He's
like
$20 million center.
exactly. And so you've got, believe it or not, a little bit of depth. I never thought I'd be saying that. And the other thing is with Holiday, this guy's a winner. He's a gamer. He's still one of the best, defenders in the NBA. And him and Derek White make like the most lethal backcourt in the NBA. So I would hate to take that apart. And the last thing is, and I love Pritchard in the role that he has. I just don't want to have to depend on Pritchard.
Yeah, a rough one tonight.
Yeah, I don't want to have to depend on Pritchard for more than what you've kind of been depending him for and for more than what his role is. And I feel like without Derek White, things get a little bit interesting in that sense. So that's why I'm also going to say Porzingis. But to Noah's point, this is just an exercise. This is not going to happen. We don't want it to happen.
Convince me.
We don't want to talk about it anymore. Speaking of Al Horford, though, and I know you guys could do an entire show on Al Horford. Somebody asked earlier, just in passing, a commenter, if 42 will be going into the rafters. And now what I say to that is, if the Celtics win this year, let's say the Celtics, let's put a positive if, Noah, if the Celtics can win a championship this year, does Al Horford have a case to get his number retired in Boston?
I think he has a case even if they don't win.
Interesting. You want to elaborate?
Sherrod looks like he's going to be sick.
Sherrod gave his answer already. Yeah.
Okay, so I will say I'm aware of the fact that there's already a lot of numbers up there. I can't tell you how many. How many numbers? Does anybody know?
50.
At least a dozen. 15,
A lot.
19.
No.
A lot.
If I Google it, my computer's going to crash, but if somebody else
don't
wants to
Google it. Somebody else.
Yeah, like I already know how my service is right now. But I just think, yeah, he's not. We agree Tatum and Brown.
24.
24. Okay. I just think he's done enough during this era
Shout out Amit.
that he's kind of been the heart and soul. Anybody you talk to on the championship team would say they did it for Al. Al was the leader. Al was his impact on this group and on the championship. I don't think it can be captured in his stats. And the same way that he's going to be a Hall of Famer and people are going to be like, why is he a basketball Hall of Famer when he was never, a mega star or anything like that? Like, I think the closer you are to this organization, the more people you talk to, the more you understand how profound his impact is. And I don't think they need a second championship to validate that. I would say that just because you don't average 20 points, so usually if you don't average 20 points, you don't have the same impact. But I actually think that I would argue that he has the same impact as Tatum and Brown on this group in this era. Like that might sound crazy, and don't clip that off. I'm not sure about that statement the second it came out of his mouth, but yeah. So
Bobby,
yeah, and I do think
damn it, clip that.
No, don't clip that, please. I immediately took it back, but you get my point.
Hey, sometimes you have to go a little bit above the point to make.
Yeah, and there's some precedent for guys who are in more role positions getting this, because I think that would be the argument against it, right? That he wasn't central to the winning ever. He was more of a complementary piece. Although I'd say early on in like 17, he was pretty central, 18 even, on that East Finals run. But it's just spanned so many years now. And again, he was starting at center for the championship run there. And I think all the stuff Noah said is valid. And let's not forget, Jimmy, this was the first significant free agent they ever signed. Like him coming in the first place was a pretty seminal moment for them. And I should probably recuse myself from this because I had the jersey hanging behind me. For
I was waiting, Bobby. I was waiting for you to bring that up.
Yeah, Bobby
So-
doesn't get a vote.
What I say doesn't matter, but I would say yes.
I'm on the yes side, but I think they do need to win another one. I think that would just put him in a different tier, and all the
Yeah.
reasons you guys gave, and also, but Sherrod made a good point earlier too. It's like if he's just kind of be there for the next championship and not really contribute in the playoffs. Like, I don't mean not contribute, but he's gotta have some level of decent effect in the playoffs, which I think he will. If he's anything like he has this year, I think he's going to have a good effect on this team in the playoffs and really affect winning and be a very strong contributor. And what I had even said to Sherrod was like, someday, I don't know when, if he ever does decide to retire, you're going to take a look at his career and say, wow, this guy had one of like any elite career. When you look at his numbers, how he's transformed his game, how he's able to go from an interior scorer to a 3-point shooter. And if he can win multiple championships and the longevity, I really think you're not going to have a lot of guys that you can really compare him to. And I do think that he's a super undervalued,
unique guy.
underappreciated player in the NBA. I think like Celtics fans appreciate him. I think Hawks fans probably understand his value. But other than that, unless you're a player in this league, it's almost like the Drew Holiday effect. Like you really probably don't appreciate him the same way that you would.
It took Celtics fans a little while too, because
they called him Average Al for years, Bobby.
Yeah, he had the big contract, and he wasn't a guy who was putting up like 25 and 12. So the subtle, it's massive, right? But it's subtle too. You have to really look at it and kind of, dig deep to see the impact. But as Noah said, if you're around him, if you're around him, if you watch him day to day, and just some of the big moments too, like you can go back to a lot of them. Jimmy, I said, you'll never forget the honest dunk, that year on that run, even though they didn't win the title that year. And think of that too. They went to the finals that year. The first year he came back after the trade, and I thought that was the move that really got everything going here, bringing him back. That you didn't win that year, but that was important. I mean, they were just the year before, and then they're in the finals a year later, and that was a massive step in what we're seeing now.
Al is 2 years away from being 2 years away from retiring. It seems every time it seems like he's close, the window continues to stay open. And the way that the Celtics have been able to manage his minutes these last couple of years has extended his career in ways that I don't think we can fully comprehend. Al is
had a big toe issue.
What's that?
He's had a big toe issue he's been dealing with for a couple
you know ask me about that.
If he's giving you I think Al can navigate 20 some odd minutes a night with the toe issue, especially if he's getting every other game off, or getting back-to-backs off. But the issue that I have with him having the jersey raised is that when you look at the numbers of the players up there, they were more than just good players. They were decisive, high-impact players in winning a championship. And Al is going to have a significant role, but he's not going to be your best player or your second best player or even your third best player. I
think you're so right, Sherrod, because would he be the worst player on there? No. But there's a lot of championships for the guys who are on there.
Right. And it just seems that when you start looking at his actual body of work as a Celtic and you compare it to the other jerseys up there, it's going to seem a little odd because if you take someone like Cedric Maxwell, Al may have better numbers, but Cedric won a championship, put the team on his back and won a chip. That puts you in a very different place and space than anyone who plays for this organization. And Al, I just don't think that his body of work as a Celtic warrants that number being retired. He is a Hall of Famer. I absolutely 100% could happen. To me, it's just a matter of when, not if, that will happen. But jersey retirement.
By the way, Noah,
can I just
go ahead?
No, I was going to say somebody's crashing out in the chat because I said Al Horford is in his prime. I don't actually mean that Al Horford is in his prime, but I do think that there are moments where you just expect him to not be able to do things that he's able to do, and he can still do them. He's light years away from being the player that he once was. I asked him post game about like the 2-pointers and the fact that he's driving to the basket more, and I thought he was going to say like it's a kind of more like he's getting back in his bag of things that he used to do, but a lot of it is actually all a new effort. Like he said that he's been working with the coaching staff on figuring out what to do when guys are closing out on him and kind of like developing the things that he is able to do to get to the basket in a 38-year-old body and the preparation of work that goes out behind the scenes. So I don't literally mean Al Horford is in his prime. Obviously, he's not in his prime. He's years away from that. If they were, this team would probably cruise to the championship. But I think there is something to be said about the fact that he's a lot closer to being an elite player than a really washed up player that is super far away from what he once was. Like there are moments in time where you're like, this guy actually is still elite.
That's a good way to put it.
Anybody expected that.
So he's finding a way to mix in, some of the old tricks that Al Horford has been patenting for years with some new ones. The one thing he does, and I saw him do it at least once, maybe twice in this game, was attacking that closeout, but rather than trying to get to the basket, he'll just get to the block and then put his back to the basket and go back to do what Al has did for years in Atlanta. And that's a back to the basket score that teams have a lot of trouble defending. It's genius when you think about what he's doing now with his game. He's not necessarily completely overhauling it. He's just tweaking it, adding some things of today with some things that he's been doing forever. And it gives the Celtics a different look, a different dimension when he's on the floor, particularly when he has it rolling like he did tonight.
It's worth mentioning too, Jimmy, to Noah's point, he can still get to that point in moments. And we were going back and forth a little bit because the numbers are down this year. And I think you do have to acknowledge that a little bit, that at times this year we've seen a little bit of regression offensively. And it's good to see. It was a great question by Noah. The block work and, getting inside and attacking closeouts and all that stuff. We've definitely seen an uptick in that. And they'd almost gotten rid of that, which I think probably wasn't super wise, just making him exclusively a three-point shooter, because there are some elements you can take advantage of there. But it is getting to a point. I do think this says a lot about his value, that we thought at the beginning of the year, you just sign him this offseason for the minimum. That's where he'll be at. It'll be a big break, and, it's good for him too. He can just stick around on minimums at this point. But, Fisher put out that report that, $6 million might be the starting point for him this summer. And now, if there's a market for him or other teams want him, like, center is such a sparse position. And that's why I really emphasize the third center stuff with Cornette. You look at some teams' backup centers and you're like, man, they just have nothing. And so imagine teams across the league at least having a dream of being able to toss, a moderate offer at Horford and at least pushing the Celtics and making it tough for them to keep him. He's playing well enough to at least start to think about that this summer, I don't know what his priorities are going to be. Obviously, he's a staple in Boston at this point, and you don't even think about the possibility of him leaving. But he might at least make it tough and challenging for them to keep him, because he's not a minimum touching. Like, he's one of the best backup centers in the league in this new role he's in. So I don't foresee him leaving. I don't foresee him really with the money if they want to keep this thing together as much as they can here. But he's playing well enough to at least warrant going to them after the year and saying, hey, I'm not a 2 million guy. I'm a 6 million guy.
Yeah. Good problem to have if you're the Celtics right now. Guys, quick reminder, the polls are going to be closing in just a couple minutes. Get your votes in for the Garden Report bracket challenge. The Elite 8 is up for grabs right now. Let's see if we get here. Here we go. We're in the third center region. And right now it is Tatum Lullaby against Noah Tatum Hate.
Okay.
Wow.
And Noah has already said that if Noah Tatum Hate gets to the
If
championship.
Noah Hates Tatum wins, I'm quitting the show.
Okay.
There it is. She said it. So I don't know if that means you want to vote for it or not, but we don't want.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's gonna play.
Don't want her to quit, but we want to maybe put a scare into her a little bit. But that is the bracket right now. Final votes in. You can vote here on YouTube. You can vote on Twitter. We'll announce the results. You'll see them on the next show Wednesday night. Guys, before we wrap it, what else from this game or heading home? Do you want to hit on anything that stood out to you that we didn't really? We obviously talked Al Horford. We mentioned Holiday. Derek White broke the record for 3-pointers tonight. Anything from Jason Tatum, good or bad tonight in this one? Or is there something that you want to just get off your chest before we wrap it?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'll go the White direction. It is. I know you guys heard the sound and what he said there. That was a great story to me, and we've talked about it a lot. You would have never pictured him doing this, and so the 3-point records, I'm kind of like, and he said it too, I broke this, but someone else is going to break this soon. And it's just sort of a, are you playing next year kind of thing at this point? Because the threes are just going up and up and up, and the attempts and all that. So these records are all going to be broken. So I didn't pay close attention to the race they're in. And obviously they have 3 guys who are probably going to break the record White just broke this year. So is it just like Pritchard's one earlier in the year, is it this record that you're going to remember forever? No. But the fact that he got there before any of the teammates, the fact that he did it after where he was shooting the ball in 2022 when he got here and earlier in his Spurs career, it does say a lot about his growth and where he's at as a shot maker right now. It's kind of ridiculous. And I don't even know how it's possible to achieve the improvement he did off where he was. Because was he like 32 that year, Jimmy, and then he's like in the 20s into the playoffs, and you couldn't even play him in the finals like he talked about there.
Yeah.
And now it's like this guy is one of the most dangerous 3-point shooters in the clutch you can think of. And every time he takes a big shot, you feel like it's going to go in. So it's just one of those things. You just sit here and kind of gush about it and gloat about it, because what else can you really say? But this guy's just awesome, and he continues to be awesome, and he feels more and more indispensable every passing day, every week. He wasn't at his best tonight, but still makes a couple of big plays down the stretch. It's a pretty cool moment for him, and it is one that stands out a little bit, even though those 3-point records aren't the most substantive things now because of the attempts. But wow, I mean, you talk about a guy who's really endeared himself in Celtics history. He's heading in that direction.
Bobby just raised his number up too, just like that.
The last thing I was going to add, I don't know if you guys touched on this, but Xavier Tillman starting and just kind of
there it is. Me and Sherrod were waiting to see if one of you guys are going to bring up Tillman.
Okay. Listen,
you knew it wasn't going to be me.
Everybody drink.
Why is there a lullaby?
That's just
so. I'll ask you this, Noah.
I haven't even said anything yet.
But I want to skip to the important part with Tillman.
You don't even know what
well, the important
just hijacking.
Okay, fine. You'll never know.
No idea what Noah's going to say.
No, I just want to know what she thinks about this.
I was going to say, I don't care about Tillman's on-court performance. He's really struggled this year. He's dealt with a bunch of knee things. I think that what makes Joe a great coach is that we can see, because we're not in the film room and we very rarely can see the little things that he's doing on the court. We talk around it, but he knows how to keep every single person on this roster engaged and bought in. It's obvious every time you grab a player one-on-one and talk to them, it seeps through. Obviously, this is the only NBA team I've covered, and I'm sure anybody would agree with me that has covered other teams. We just talked to him, and he talked about how he stays ready, how he stays bought in. He's not going to play. This has been a really disappointing, season for him. I think from a health standpoint, he's took some shots to deal with the flare-up, but the fact that he made this gesture, I didn't even realize this was his first time back in Memphis since he got traded. It really obviously meant a lot to him. It was a very special moment. It didn't hurt them. It didn't cost them anything. They were able to still win this game, and he struggled a little bit with his shot, but I thought he made some big plays. I know people were kind of clowning Joe for his answer to my question, but I think he did make some big plays, and I thought it was just a cool thing that Joe did, and it is part of why this team has been successful. It's not the flashiest thing. He didn't have a great game, but it's part of why they've managed to keep everybody on this roster engaged, because everybody has gotten their moment this season. And tonight was his moment, and he didn't do a whole ton with it. But yeah.
He's your 5th center. What do you want from him?
There it is.
No, he said, and I did think this was honest by Joe. He said he still thinks Tillman can give them something at some point here, if necessary. Obviously, there's no great sign of that right now, but we still remember what he did last postseason. Is there still hope for him? Because it really sucks how it's gone from this year.
Did he get a video tribute?
No.
There's like one YouTube highlight reel that you could play.
Okay.
No,
shout out the knee thing.
Do you believe
I don't know, because the version of him that we've seen over the last year has not been healthy. Like, that's the reality. I think because he's not an important player from like a roster, a playing time standpoint, we haven't asked about it a lot, and we don't get anything but injuries. But he's clearly, you can see him hobbling around. Like, he told us today, Bobby, you asked him about what has actually been happening the last few months, and he said, his knee totally flared back up. They had surgery on. He's had a bunch of knee issues. I think he's not healthy at all, and that's really hampered him. I don't know what he looks like 100% because we haven't seen that. Obviously, he had his moments earlier in his career. I don't know if he can get healthier. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know, but Clank is mean. But Clank is a little mean.
Yeah,
Tough.
Damn it, Amit.
Damn it, Amit.
But yeah.
This was a guy you were really excited about last year, and again,
Me?
did some things. Everybody.
Oh,
He
I
comes
was not
over,
excited.
and you're like,
I was.
when they got him?
That
I
he's
thought
not the
I
prototype
was.
of player that I get
I was
fixated on.
actually on the X train.
Yeah.
I think he just fit a mold that they needed and would have been a nice addition to the front court at the time if it went well. And it didn't go great for even a lot of last year. And obviously health was a part of that then too. But, you know, in the moments where they called on him, he did seem to come through. And it's tough this year. Every time they call on him, it's like the droves of missed threes and not quite the same defensive impact you saw before. I do agree with you, Noah. I think it's the knee. That's something he's dealt with for a very long time going back to college. Sometimes that stuff just catches up to you, Sherrod, and it's a bummer. And they signed him to a 2-year deal too, so he will be back next year unless they move off him this summer. So we'll see what happens here. But I'm glad Joe kept some hope alive, at least, that maybe if they really need him at some point down the line, he'll surprise.
It was a good gesture by Joe, and he had some nice things to say about Tillman after the game. I'm not sure who asked the question, probably Noah, but he was able to identify some of the things that Tillman did well out there, even though he did, miss the shots and things like that. So will we see Tillman again in like meaningful minutes? I'm not entirely sure. Me and Sherrod kind of went down the roster, and I think we listed like 6 guys right off the bat that would probably come in before Tillman in like a deep role situation. So we'll see. That being said, a lot of good things to like after this Celtics road trip. They go 6-0. They take care of business against the Memphis Grizzlies, a tough Grizzlies team. The hard hat's on for a reason. I thought the Celtics played hard tonight. They come back home now for a few games. We got Miami Wednesday, Phoenix
Friday.
Phoenix without Durant on Friday.
All right.
And
Then
then
Smart and the Wizards on Sunday.
Smart and the Wizards on Sunday. Yikes. That'll be an interesting game. So Noah and Bobby, you guys will be back for those games, I assume.
Not staying in Memphis.
I'll even be at the main Celtics playoffs tomorrow in Portland.
Wow. That is dedication.
If anybody's looking to catch a cheap game with some potentially high stakes.
Yeah, shout out Game Time. Maybe you can check out Game Time for that.
Yeah.
We'll do a segment at some point on numbers that should be retired for the main Celtics. I think Bobby and Noah would be able to probably
JD's in.
Rattle off.
JD is their all-time best player.
I don't think there's any argument there.
JD's the first number raised in Maine.
He'll be the first one raised.
There's a couple of names.
Luke's name is already up there on a banner.
Put Luke up there.
Luke's, what's it up there for?
They have like call-ups. They had guys that have been with Maine and then like
greatest Maine players ever.
Okay. Interesting.
And when Sam signed his extension last year, Jordan Walsh told me that they were going to have to put a banner with his name on it because like he signed like whatever many millions of dollars.
Right.
So.
He's the richest guy to go through Maine.
The richest G League signing.
That's really disrespectful to the atmosphere up there in Portland. So anybody
you also spelled Maine M-I-A-N-E.
Oh,
he fixed it. He fixed it. Leave Amit alone.
He repinned the new comment in shame.
Yeah. Noah, speaking of Maine, do you want to plug your article that you wrote recently? It was pretty interesting look into what goes on up there in Maine.
You read it, Jimmy?
I browsed it, yeah.
There's no way you read that article.
Yeah. Why would I bring it up?
But he did read part of it.
He read the headline.
He just read the headline,
Yeah. I read like that.
Well, it was
summary
3,000 words. I don't know if you like reading.
I'm learning.
Yeah, you can check out my main Celtics article. Actually, you know what? Let me drop a link in the chat. Can I do that?
Drop a link in the chat, but why don't you give us like a 1-sentence summary of what it's about so people can decide?
Basically, it's about why Maine matters. For those of you that don't think Maine matters, it explains why Maine matters and why they keep winning and why they're able to still Oh, I didn't mean to drop it 3 times. But why they're able to still keep winning, like they're in the playoffs, they have been one of the best teams this season, but then also they're preparing guys. Like everybody got excited about Baylor Schreiman in March, but Baylor Schreiman spent most of the season in Maine. So yeah, that's why it matters. And you can read about the developmental program. I talked to a bunch of people there, and JD Davison feature coming out in the morning. So follow along on Celtics blog.
Future Maine Hall of
Famer. A bunch of people. Yeah, all-time leading scorer, assists, and someone who Drew Holiday says is be a very good NBA player. So
he's the main GOAT.
That's a teaser.
JD
story.
Good summary of your article, Noah. Now I'm recalling like those parts that I read when I read it. Yeah. Bobby, you plugged something earlier too. What did you?
Let's see if anybody clicked on the story. I can check on my analytics website.
I talked to Baylor Schreiman, speaking of him this morning, and
that's what
I appreciated that he said he's thinking about the playoffs. You know, he wants to get in on this, and he's not going too far with it, and you know, he's trying to take things day by day, but he's thinking about a playoff role. And you didn't see a lot of them tonight. I feel like they reeled back the minutes against Phoenix too. You know, he came in late in that game, but you are seeing him every night for the most part here, and I do think that's significant. And I asked Joe about it before the game, and he said, "Oh, we need everybody," as he always does there. So. Still trying to get a feel for whether that use of Shiren in particular is significant here, or it's just them wanting to see him before the season ends because they know they're not going to go to him in the playoffs. I think on an average night in the playoffs, Jimmy, you're not going to see him. But do you go down 15 early in a game and you just don't have any, you want to throw out somewhere in there, you know, Noah's point for the energy and how hard he plays and just try to get something going? I thought they used O'Shea in that role a little bit last year at times. I think that's probably where you'll end up seeing him if they're healthy. And then, of course, if they're not healthy, that's where you see a much larger chance of him getting involved. But it's amazing to me. We're, 8 games into this run of his now, and he plays every night. Feels like he does a little something every night. It's a really great story. And, you know, you just see him at the shoot-arounds. He really seems comfortable here. You know, it seems like he's starting to connect with teammates more. Obviously, the fans are really starting to get excited about him. It is awesome. No, I know I mentioned all the main stuff too. The way they used him to get him comfortable and ready to go late this year, it was pretty impressive. And even if it's for next year and we don't see him in the playoffs, still a huge story late this season, and one they needed because they're not playing for anything right now, and you needed something to get excited about. And he's been it, obviously.
And shout out to the 26 people that clicked on the story from the chat. Shout out to the chat.
Look at that. See?
Yeah. Okay. 26 people from YouTube in the last 5 minutes. So
little garden report bump.
We'll put the we'll put the Shireman. We'll put the
drop it in there, Bobby. Now's your time.
Drop it in there. And then
people are reading.
We got the main Celtics insiders live right now on the show. So if you guys have any questions about the G Leaguers, you guys know where to go. We're gonna call it. We got another one on Wednesday.
At the buzzer.
Sherrod's had about enough main.
There
Celtics
we go. Thanks,
for
Amit.
the rest of the week, and I am right there with them. But thank you guys for jumping on with us. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. Appreciate Bobby and Noah jumping on, Sherrod jumping on. My name is Jimmy. For Sherrod, for Bobby, for Noah, who's just can't stop laughing, I guess. Thank you guys. Amit, hit me with the
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's slide Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke